Channel. Thank you for joining me. My name is Linda. For those of you who don't know me, I kind of sort of do a lot of things. So some of you may have seen me doing crafting projects or what all, but I am a crafter. I am a DIYer. I have a small business. I am a vintage reseller. Do quite a few things. So one of my biggest passions is reading. I love to read, and I noticed that for the last few years, I've read a lot of ebooks. I have not been reading physical books. So I've decided that I want to get back into reading physical books because I love books. I love holding them in my hand. I love turning the pages. I love the smell of books. I love sharing books. I love talking about books. So I decided that I'm going to get back to reading ebooks, and I would like to share the books that I read with you guys. And I hope you all will enjoy this. The book that I started with is called Under the Tulip Tree. It is by Michelle Shockley. My daughter recommended this book to me, and I had it for a couple of weeks before I picked it up to read, and I couldn't read it fast enough. I found the book to be quite interesting. Uh, it's about a young girl. She was 16 years old at the time. Her name was Lorena Leland, and she dreamed of being a writer. That's all she wanted to be, was a writer. And it was on her 16th birthday, and she was all excited because her family had planned this big party for her. But she noticed that her mom was kind of distracted, and her father wasn't at home, and he had promised that he was going to be home that day. But he wasn't there. To make a long story short, that was the day that the stock market crashed, 1929. Lena's father was a banker. He had made some bad investments, not only for himself, but for other people. And they basically lost everything. And that's when her life changed. Their whole lives just changed. Um, then the book moves forward about 7 years, and Rena, as she was called in the book, had worked for the Nashville Banner, which is a real newspaper in Nashville, Tennessee. Well, it used to be. It no longer is, because this story was set in Tennessee, in Nashville, which is right up the road from where I live. Fun fact, because I do live in Tennessee. But anyway, she had worked for the Nashville Banner, and she had lost her job like so many other people. But every week she would go back down to the Banner and ask for her job back, and every week she was told no, that there was no jobs to be had. But one day she went, and the editor told her about a program called the Writers Project, um, the Federal Writers Project, and it was a program that had been set up to get writers working again. And what her job was to go down to what was called Hell's Half Acre and interview former slaves to get their story, write it up, and present it to the paper. So Rena decided she would take the job, and she would go down to Hell's Half Acre. And she met a lady by the name of Frankie Washington. Frankie was 101 years old. She was a former slave. And Rena asked her if she would mind sharing her story with her. And Frankie told her, well, yeah, because in the past she hadn't talked much about her life as a former slave, but she felt that if she didn't tell somebody her story, that God was not going to let her go home, as she referred to it. So Rena started meeting with Frankie. She actually met with Frankie more than was necessary because she was so intrigued by the story, and she was so intrigued with Frankie that she just kept going back and kept going back, and until she had learned the whole story. She and Frankie became friends, and they both learned from each other. They both learned about how the past impacted the present, and Lena also learned how involved her family was in that whole life of slavery and slave owner, and she was kind of surprised at some of the things that she learned, because she said during school a lot of the things that she learned from Frankie just was not taught in school. Go figure. So they became friends. They grew a deeper understanding of each other, and how their lives, although they were so different, was also impactful to the present. So I would recommend this book if you are if you like history, if you like learning about the past and how the past in I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, the past has a lot to do with the present. Anyway, but this novel talks about friendship. It talks about forgiveness and faith and racial injustice and family history and reconciliation. All those things that 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 whole era brought about. Again, I would recommend this book. I hope you will read this book. Again, it's Under the Tulip Tree by Michelle Shockley. And if you read it, come back and tell me in the comments how you liked it, or if you didn't like it, or just what you thought about it. I would love to hear. But again, please hit that subscribe button, follow me, like this, hit the notification button so you will be